Hello! I can see that people are joining our webinar, and it's great. And we will start in a few minutes. And before we start, could you please check? How can you see me? How can you hear me? Please answer in our chat. So, it's time to start. Welcome to our Scrum Events Fundamentals webinar. My name is Valentina, and today we are talking about fundamental Scrum events and how to conduct them remotely online. This webinar is organized by Timbo, the online collaboration tool for remote teams. You can find our previous webinar on our YouTube channel. This webinar will be also recorded. It will take about 45 minutes of our webinar, and at the end we will have a questions and answers section. So please do not hesitate to send your questions to our chat. So let's start. Let me introduce myself. My name is Valentina. I work as a project manager and business analyst at IQBBA Systems. Our company works on outsourced projects and own products, and Timbo is one of them. And today we are talking about sprint planning that helps team to look in the same direction, daily stand-ups and how to avoid it becoming an actual remote routine, and sprint retrospective as a key activity to increase team performance and engagement. A heartbeat of Scrum is sprint. It's when all ideas are turned into values. And all the work necessary to achieve the sprint goal happens within sprint, and it's called Scrum events. Each sprint is started with sprint planning. Sprint planning initiates the sprint by laying out the work to be performed for the sprint. It's a collaborative work for all Scrum team members, so everyone should be involved. This event takes about up to 8 hours, but usually it takes about 2 or 3 hours. During the sprint planning, Scrum team should discuss the following topics. Why is this sprint valuable? What can be done this sprint? And how will the chosen work get done? During the sprint, team members should also estimate their work. Each team can use any estimation techniques they like. It can be hours or story points, and they also should agree the value of one story point. T-shirts and the task can be arranged by their size or any other. Estimations help to plan work and team capacity for the sprint. At the end of the planning, Scrum team should come up with the results. The sprint goal, the product backlog items selected for the sprint, so-called sprint backlog, and plan for delivering these items. When the sprint is started, it is very important to know where the team is and how the work is going on, and daily Scrum can help with this. Daily Scrum or daily stand-ups, it's an everyday routine. It's a 15 minutes event for the team to inspect progress in reaching their sprint goal and adopt the sprint backlog. To make it easier, each Scrum team member should answer 3 questions. What did I do yesterday that helped the team to meet the sprint goal? What will I do today? And do I see any impediments that prevent me or the team from meeting the sprint goal? We studied your feedback to our registration form and found that daily Scrum is a very hot topic, and there are lots of questions related to it. And now we'll try to give you some tips and tricks how to conduct them effectively and not boring. As daily Scrum is an everyday routine and should be effective, helpful, and not boring. For this, keep the meeting in 15 minutes time box, as longer meetings are less effective. People should share their blockers. Everybody should speak. Team members should report to the whole team. You should avoid long discussion just with several people involved. If this discussion is really necessary, you can manage it after your daily Scrum. Manage meeting notes and track their progress. And the final one, the most important, define who's speaking next. And this is where we can add some fun and spirit of game. On our daily Scrums, we use interactive roulette. Our team likes this tool because it helps them to stay focused, add some excitement and emotions when they are pointed the next. Also, we usually put our meeting notes to keep them saved and have the ability to come back and revise some details. As daily Scrum is quite a short time event, sometimes our team requires to discuss some high-level and more global questions. And this is where retrospective can help. Sprint retrospective is one of the most fundamental activities in Scrum, because no matter how good the Scrum team is, there is always room for growth. And retrospective is a place when each team member can share their ideas, how to improve their work. Sprint retrospective can take up to 3 hours, and the team should effectively spend this time and come up the retro with a list of action points to be resolved for the next sprints. To make sprint retrospective effective, your team should touch the following questions during the event. Discuss what happened during the previous sprint. Celebrate team wins, it is also very important. Reflect on how to become more efficient and brainstorm ideas for improvement. We know how hard it can be to involve all team into the retro. So Scrum Master should make this event fun, enjoyable and safe. Work on remote makes retros more challenging as we don't have access to face-to-face communication, whiteboard and sticky notes. But still, you can make your online retros also effective. For this, use audio and video conferencing tools to be able to connect to all participants. And also use digital real-time collaboration board, for example, Timbo. Each retrospective should follow a certain plan. The first step is set the stage. Scrum Master should remind event goal, start with some ice-breaking activities, and revise the status of the action point from the previous retro. Then you should start brainstorm and share your ideas of the whole team. Brainstorm is a key activity when the team can create and share their ideas. So it should be an open and comfortable process, but not so long. 10 minutes is always enough. When brainstorming is finished, Scrum Master should generate some insights. You should group some similar events, pick up the points for deeper discussions, and here you can add voting for your team members, and discuss the most critical items. When brainstorming and voting is finished, you can choose the issues and problems you would like to discuss and come up with some action points. Scrum Master should fix lessons learned, set up action points for the next sprint, and assign each action point to a responsible team member. You can also set deadlines. When this main stage of the retro is finished, you should finish your retro and keep it in positive note. Thank each other for the work and motivate your team for the next successful cycle. You can treat your retro as effective if you come up with the following items. Define changes to be put into action during the next sprint, and document a list of improvements to be revised in the next retros. You also ask us how to conduct effective retros, and we can give you some tips. Make sure you include online icebreakers. Change your main stage templates from time to time. You can find more info about these templates in our previous webinar. And finish sprint retros with closing techniques. It is also very important to keep your team involved. For this, do video calls instead of audio. Let team members write their ideas rather than just speak them. Let them vote for other ideas and pick up the most popular items. Convert the ideas into action points. Then assign each action point to a particular team member and define a deadline when the action point should be resolved. Here you can see the examples how we conduct our retros using the Timbo tool. Icebreakers. We usually track team's mood, and each team member can select the mood they have for the previous sprint. And if this mood is not positive, we always should discuss it. Our collaboration board. There, each team member can write their own ideas and vote for other ideas, so we can quickly define the most important items and discuss them. Tracking action points. I'd like to pay your attention once again that each action point should be tracked and assigned to some responsible team member. Timbo provides this ability. So we finish the retro with a clear to-do list and deadlines, and it helps us to resolve them quickly. And closing exercises. We like this part most, because here we can thank each other for the work and get inspired for the next sprint. This is how our team works with Timbo. In conclusion, I'd like to give you some more advices. Include some Scrum events into your team life. It is very helpful. Add diversity and fun to your events. Keep on track notes and decisions. Use icebreakers to make the team speak. Also, here you can find some useful links. The main source of conducting Scrum events is Scrum Guide and its latest version of 2020. Our next recommended tool is Retromat. It's a place where you can find very interesting ideas for your next retros. We also sometimes use it. And our Timbo blog. Here we regularly publish more articles related to Scrum events, how to conduct them online, how to keep your team involved, and how to use Timbo, of course. And before we go to your questions, I'd like to give you some homework. It's not so easy. So what you should do? Please register on timboretro.com. Then you should create a retro. You can find easy tutorials how to do this, some instructions and helps, and also you can ask our chatbot how to do this. In your retro, you should use at least 3 templates for each stage. At the beginning, you should find some icebreaker. We have several templates for it. Then you should select your main stage template. As I mentioned, you can find some info in our previous webinar. And your closing activities. Try to find what you like. Then you should send your retro link to our email. After you do this, you will get our prize. You get 60 days of free Timbo usage and a cheat sheet with Scrum event basics. Do you like it? Please join us. And we will send your homework after this event. Now we are moving to your questions. So let me check them and give my answers. So our first question is, how to spend only 15 minutes for daily stand-up? Yeah, it's very tricky because usually when someone starts speaking, it's, it's endless. So for this, we can give you some examples. First, you should set a list of mandatory questions that should be answered. So this is it. And then you can use a timer for each team member. In our Timbo tool, we use this tool also. And so I believe that your daily stand-ups will be shorter. So our next question. How not to miss the details from the daily stand-up? I can agree that it's quite tricky to remind all the details that all your team members shared during their daily stand-up. So we can advise you to make meeting notes and then share it with your teammates. So each team member should have access to these notes and they can go to them in any time after your daily stand-up. Also, if you have some points to be done during the next day, these points should be marked as done or is working done or make them priority. So it's also important and improve your daily routine. And our third question is, How to overcome the lack of initiative in a mixed team, Belarusian and French, during retro in English. It's also quite challenging. I believe that for non-native speakers, it is usually easier to write rather than speak. So let team members write their ideas and concerns, and you will get the answers. Then it is very useful to vote for other ideas, because this helps you to find the most popular and the most painful options. And then I believe that this will improve your communication. And our next question is, what time is the best time to conduct the stand-up? Usually we get used to have stand-ups at the morning and start our working day with it. But it is not necessary. It's up to your team. Sometimes it's useful to have these daily stand-ups at the beginning of the day, when people should plan their work for the day. Or you can conduct your daily stand-ups in the evening, when people have the work finished and have some ideas to share. So now I'm waiting your questions. I also found some interesting question in our feedback. So how to start working in Agile when your team get used to waterfall? So it's very interesting. But I can say that you should first define what's the goal of becoming Agile rather than waterfall. Because when you define your goal, it will be easier for you and your team to turn into the Agile. At the beginning, you should also give some information to your team about the main Agile principles. It's useful to have some presentations or some workshop, or even to invite some external training for them to explain the values of Agile and Scrum and how to deal with it in every day. You should also remember that each team can work with Scrum as they like. So Scrum is not very strict, so it's just recommend some techniques, some events, some activities, and also that should help you to achieve your goals, to deliver a great product. And so you can adopt the Scrum for your needs, and your team will be helpful. So let's wait for 1 minute for other questions. Oh, get another question. What kind of icebreakers could you recommend? So, we usually use one of these. One is, as I mentioned, it is team mood, when you can pick up your team, your mood for the previous sprint. It is very funny because, for example, in Timbo we use just smiles that you can use. Also, it's interesting icebreaker to use energy level. So how are you happy or exhausted after the previous sprint? And also, it is very useful to use one-word templates. So there, each team member can write one word related to the previous sprint. So how can they describe the previous sprint in one word? And sometimes you can find some interesting and funny ideas, or even some concerns. So why icebreakers are so useful? Because it's some kind of small talk at the beginning of the retro, because here you can just talk about something not so important but still interesting, and so each team member can be involved in this discussion, in this conversation, and so this makes them relaxed and helps to speak up in the future stage when they generate their ideas and concerns. Now another question. Do the same rule of having all team members attending the stand-up apply if they are in different time zones? Or do you do multiple stand-ups? So, our team is working in the same time zone, but still, we believe that it is very important for all team members to join the Scrum event. So, daily stand-up is an event for the whole team. So, it's better to find the time that fits to all team members in each time zone. And I'm waiting your questions. So, if you don't have any questions, we can finish. But if you have any, you can send your questions to our social networks. You can follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. We'll provide you with links, and or contact us directly. So now we are finishing our webinar. Thank you for coming, and please attend our next events. Thank you. Bye.